The International Newsnet World Report is a national television news show available in more than 30 million homes. We broadcast daily real news the networks won't tell you. We are solely viewer-supported. That means you. You can donate at our website, INNWorldReport.net. We hope you find the following interview informative and helpful.
We now have entomological concentration camps. Large-scale apiarists maintain hundreds of thousands of hives, gorging the bees on high-fructose corn syrup in the winter, then dousing them with pesticides in the spring. We're giving HFCS 55 to bees, the same thing they put in Coke and Pepsi. Stuff nutritionalists believe is turning Americans into obese, wheezing, diabetic, cancer-ridden couch potatoes. The latest article by environmental activist Chip Ward entitled Diesel-Driven Bee Slums and Impotent Turkeys looks into this and much more. He now joins us from Utah. Welcome to INN, Chip.
Hi.
You describe our current economy as monolithic, maximum profit-driven, and with no resilience. Could you please contrast resilience thinking versus the efficiency model that most production is now using?
Well, the notion of efficiency is probably the organizing principle of our economy, maybe even our civilization. And it says basically that you want to maximize outputs and minimize costs, especially over the short run. So efficiency eliminates redundancy, and redundancy, of course, in nature is abundant. You try to find the one best way of doing something, and then you do it that way and that way only. And you also try to figure out how you can command whatever system you're operating, so that you can avoid surprises and make the most effective use of it. And you're also breaking that system down into its parts and then manipulating the parts to get the most use out of it. Resiliency, on the other hand, is the ability of a system to bounce back after it's disturbed and basically maintain the same set of relationships that were going on before it was disturbed.
In the old days, we called this eco-balance, but you refer throughout the article of several things which were out of balance. You mentioned the salmon in the Northwest and the dams, how the dams were built and then the salmon died off, and it basically upset the entire ecosystem. What are some of the other things that you focus on that we finally lead into when you talk about monoculture and corporate farms?
Well, I think that balance and the idea of balance in nature has always been a little misleading. There is a balance, but it's sort of a rough balance, and it's the result of a very dynamic process. So nature has always got a lot of different variables in play all the time, and they can shift. They can shift across a threshold and turn out to be a very different system than the one you started with. In our case, we're doing that probably across the board with ecosystems all over. We've changed the climate, and that's a big factor. We have destroyed and fractured habitat all across the world. That makes a big difference. We've eliminated keystone species. We've eliminated predators. We're introducing chemicals to the environment. There's just myriad ways in which we are throwing new variables into play and upsetting this dynamic balance. The thing that I focused on in the essay was basically our food production system, which I think has, and pollination in particular, which I think is going to be vulnerable to a lot of catastrophic upsets in the future.
But Chip, let's talk about the main focus of your article, the loss of bee colonies around the United States. Some scientists are saying pesticides, Poncho and Admire and Calypso that were made by Bayer Chemical, they were outlawed in France, that these are the reasons for the bee colonies being destroyed. Other people are suspecting mites. Other people are even suspecting cell phone towers could be destroying the bee colonies. Is this, are these things easily fixed? Is this a symptom? What's your take on what is actually killing the bees?
I think from the research that I've done, it's pretty hard to say what's killing the bees. And I kind of think we live in an all-of-the-above world. I know that years ago when I was working as an activist on toxic pollution issues, if I suggested that people who had viruses were getting sick because of toxic pollution, doctors would have said to me, no, you keep toxins in one box and you keep viruses in the other box, apples and oranges, they don't mix. Well, the world doesn't work that way. If you lower immune response by exposing people or animals or even bees to toxins, you may make them more vulnerable to a virus, or in the case of bees, a mite, a parasite that comes in. So I'm not sure that you can just signal out one thing. I mean, I think that it's all of those things.
Let's look at the actual loss of bees. I mean, of 2.4 million bee colonies, we've lost, maybe a third of all the bee colonies we've had that were pollinating the crops. Now, are these numbers accurate? There have been different studies, and to what degree is this going to affect food production in America?
Well, I don't know if those are accurate. I suspect from looking at it that it's very hard to count bees. They're very busy. I think that a lot of the reporting is self-reporting from beekeepers. Some of it is anecdotal. I know I became involved in this because this past spring I was noticing that there weren't any bees around, and I was somewhat alarmed by it. I kept waiting for them to appear, and then I started talking to friends and family across the country, and I found that nobody was finding bees. And so I started looking into it, and sure enough, in the commercial world of beekeeping, they're experiencing about a third to a half of the colonies seem to have collapsed and gone away. Since bee pollination is key to a lot of the different vegetables and fruits that we eat, it will have an impact on the market, and it may also mean that we have less variety of vegetables and fruit to choose from. It's really hard to say. This is not unprecedented. They have had bee colony collapses before. They never have been, I think, quite so widespread.
Now there seems to be a different dynamic. You mentioned in the title of the article that we have diesel-driven bee delivery, essentially the FedEx of bees. We're taking commercial beekeepers are taking huge collections